following podcast is recorded and produced by the Podcast Precinct in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com. The Podcast Precinct. Consistency, creativity, culture.
The Nostalgia Funhouse proudly dedicates all episodes in the loving memory of Connie Chirac. So, Johnny, I've been hearing really great things about this Nostalgia Funhouse. It just brings back so many great memories.
Andrew, the only reason I'm moving in line with you here is that you really vouched for this show. So I'm just going to believe you that this is the show that, I've been wanting, which is just talking about all the fun stuff from our yesteryear and the years before. And I really hate anything meta. So I'm glad that what we're doing right now is not that.
Oh, no, definitely. What is meta? Isn't that Ron Artest's new name?
Well, add world and peace to it, sure.
Yeah, but this is great. They last year they were tearing play sets and Halloween costumes.
Well, that sounds cool.
They get these weird court recordings from pop culture courts.
Does anybody care about court cases?
These ones are kind of cool. They put Scott Kelvin on trial. Poor old Santa Claus there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, man. You know what's the best part about this is though? Is I hear they always got a really great sponsor. You can check it out right there.
Knight Rider! The Knight Rider power cycle with Kit on the pretend instrument panel.
Here he comes!
You can pretend Kit is talking, leading you to the enemy.
Standing behind the fence? Let's get him, Kit. He's gonna pass us! Yeah! The spin-out lever.
Knight Rider!
The guy is cool! One more, Kit. Go to turbo!
Knight Rider!
You got me. You're no match for Knight Rider, right, Kit?
The Knight Rider power cycle comes complete with spin-out lever. Your parents have to put it together. New from Coleco.
That's right. We're talking Night Rider. We're talking Night Rider today on the Nostalgia Funhouse. I am your host, the guy who's having an Elmer Fudd complex. That's right. I'm Johnny Townsend. I'm joined, as always, by one of my bestest pals. That's Andrew Lenz. Andrew, are you ready to talk some Night Rider?
I don't know about Knight Rider, but I heard Knight Rider's good.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, man.
We should have talked before we started this show what show we were talking about. I'm all about Knight Rider.
Okay.
One of the greatest shows from the 80s.
I must have been in a different universe because I watched Knight Rider, also from the 1980s.
I really loved it when Kit took on Call. It was a great rivalry that I really enjoyed. Not Wido? Yeah, it's the greatest. It's one of the greatest shows ever. It was so good.
It is. And it comes from, I messaged you as I watch these things, I put two and two together.
Yeah.
The 80s and into the early 90s was just all cool action shows about either a guy or a group helping people.
Yes. Yeah, that was a big thing. I mean, Knight Rider, and we had the A-Team was the same thing, right?
Yep.
Oh God, there's a bunch you can throw.
Highway to Heaven.
Yeah.
You could even throw Quantum Leap.
Yes. Yeah. Man, and these are literally all shows that I love. So I'm totally cool with it. Quantum Leap's one of my favorite shows of all time.
I had no idea what Highway to Heaven really was. When I first started watching it, I just knew that the guy with Michael Landon had an Oakland A's hat on, and growing up, that was my favorite baseball team. So I was like, yes, I'm gonna watch this because he has an A's hat on.
Yeah, that was a show I also liked quite a bit, but I came from a history of watching Bonanza. Michael Landon was on there, so that's why I was like, well, I want to watch Highway to Heaven because he's also on there, and Little House on the Prairie. I also watched. Those are all three shows I really like. So,
yeah, I was gonna say he's one of those guys that he's classic.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about Michael Landon anymore. We need to bring.
No, they don't. I agree. Let's write that down for a future episode.
Michael Landon needs to come back in the mainstream.
But speaking of come back, let's talk about some David Hasselhoff.
Yes.
The Hoff. This is probably one of the for me, this is the first thing I remember him from. This?
That's the same with me too. I guess he was in a soap opera before this, but
he was also in some sci-fi type show, I think. Before this, I can't remember what it was called, but I do know that's the show that got him hired for Knight Rider. Was the creator saw him in that and was like, I want to get David Hasselhoff, because the network was very lukewarm on him, but he fought for him.
Yeah, I heard somebody else wasn't it like Tom Selleck or somebody?
It was the guy from Miami Vice.
Yeah, Don Johnson.
Yeah, Don Johnson. Yeah, it was him.
In a world, I don't think that works. In that world, I don't think it works, because
I think Don Johnson was meant for Miami Vice, and I think David Hasselhoff was meant for Knight Rider.
There's something about David Hasselhoff playing Michael Knight.
It works, right? It just works.
The way he gets out of the car, the way that he talks to Kit is, he plays this smart guy in Michael Knight, but yet he's not. But he's a very down to earth guy, and he's talking to a supercomputer, and he's trying to help him. Really is a cool kind of buddy cop type show.
Yes, what really helps this show, and I think we should get into what the show kind of is too at the same time. But what really helps this show for me is that buddy copish element, because it really does feel like Michael Knight and Kit are really good friends. And I mean, they even kind of joke on each other, right? They'll even kind of do that. Bill Daniels, Mr. Feeney, for those who don't know, is the voice of Kit, and he's actually never, you'll never see his name on Knight Rider. Nope. And the legend is he didn't want to take people out of the experience that Kit wasn't real, so he didn't want his name on the credits.
It's real to me, damn it.
Oh, it's real to me too.
I am the crying wrestling guy. when it comes to Kit, it's still real to me, damn it.
And I know a lot of little stuff because I looked this up before we recorded, but obviously they used multiple cars for Kit. They had the main car, which is called the Hero car, and a Kit is a Pontiac Trans Am from the 80s. And back then, that was a really sweet car. It was a really cool looking car. And they actually were able to get most of those cars for like literally $1. Pontiac sold them some of their junk cars for $1 they could use as the extra cars to do all the stunts and stuff. So they paid $1 for those. They did pay like full price for the Hero car, I think I saw somewhere. And Pontiac actually had a back and forth with them too, as in before the show was a hit, they didn't want them to even say that car was a Pontiac Trans Am. They didn't want the word Pontiac thrown in there. They said, you can say Trans Am, don't say Pontiac.
It's like Lightning McQueen. Like nobody can put their finger on Lightning McQueen, what kind of car if we're gonna go that route with it. It exists not in a real world, but you can name all the other cars in Cars, which sounds like a weird sentence, kind of like Kit. You just know it's a cool car.
Well, I mean, I would say that Lightning McQueen is like a Hot Wheels car, like one of those ones that Hot Wheels makes up, which actually you can tell takes influences from other famous cars or popular cars, and that's kind of what Lightning McQueen is, right? You could he's almost like he's a stock car mixed with a Dodge Viper mixed with whatever you want to throw in there. But yeah, so Knight Rider, for those who don't know, was a show from 82. It was 4 seasons long. I think it started in 82. Mm-hmm. And lived on in reruns, obviously, but it literally saved NBC. NBC at this time was losing, and again, just to set the stage for our younger listeners, this was a time when there weren't very many options on TV. There was only this is even before Fox became Fox, so that channel didn't even really exist as we know it today for sure, and at this time, this is when a little show called Dallas was a major hit. It just dwarfed everything else on Friday nights. Dallas was a major hit, and NBC just wanted to throw something out there. They didn't think that Knight Rider would even put a dent into Dallas, so let's just throw it on Friday nights. And guess what? It actually became NBC's one of their highest rated shows. I don't think it ever actually beat Dallas because I don't think people realize how huge Dallas was. Dallas was a game changer TV show.
That's how you can tell a wrestling fan from a normal person, is when you say JR, if they either go to Jim Ross or they go to Dallas.
Yeah, or they go, who shot him? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that The Simpsons took this premise and took it to their own show, and made us all sit around and go, "Who shot Mr. Burns?" Just like before that, everybody wanted to know who shot JR.
Yeah, and on top of that, Dallas was such a pop culture hit that not only were other shows kind of mocking it like Simpsons would do later on, but literally Who Shot JR was in like the lexicon. People were like, we have to know who did this. And it's also one of the first big shows that I remember everybody being really disappointed in the decision they would make, and it being like, hey, that whole season didn't really happen. It was all a dream. Which is a giant cop out.
That's the one where like Patrick Duffy comes out of the shower.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But Knight Rider is obviously Michael Knight is he was actually, who was he before? He was Michael Knight. He had a name, Michael something.
Long. He was
Michael Long, and he was like a cop, a detective, but before that he was a veteran. And when he was a veteran, he got injured, so they put like a metal plate in his head. But when he's a cop, he gets tricked and he gets shot in the face. Which for the 80s, honestly, early 80s, that's pretty violent. Bad. Yeah, it's pretty violent for early 80s TV. Early 80s
TV, yeah. Okay.
TV, not movies, TV. So he's shot in the face.
Still a kid show to me, damn
it. It is. I knew, that's why I didn't even question it. I knew for you it would be. But so he's shot in the face and he gets reconstructive surgery, and after that he looks suspiciously like that guy from Baywatch.
I love it in like the first episode. They don't really show his face.
Yeah.
And when they do, they dub over David Hasselhoff's like voice throughout the whole entire thing. And it works, but then it doesn't work because you can kind of tell the difference.
Yes. But he becomes Michael Knight, and he's paired up with Kit, which is a Knight Industries 2000. That's the name of the car. That's why he got the name Kit. And Kit is basically, actually, the premise of the show when they were creating it was, let's make a Lone Ranger type show, but make it with a guy in a car. That's kind of where they went with that. And it's really what it is.
Yeah.
If you think about it, at its essence. The influences for Knight Rider is everything from the Lone Ranger to BJ and the Bear. Like, it's everything, all that's thrown in there. Literally, like they're influenced by pretty much everything. But yeah, it's so they go around and the gist of it is they kind of go where law enforcement won't go, basically. And they solve all kinds of crimes. He's always hooking up with ladies.
Oh,
it's all the time. Like every episode, there's a new lady of the week, pretty much. And it's I love it. Going back, me and you both have been going back and rewatching it, and it's definitely of its time, 100%. But I still love it. It's bringing back a lot of memories. There's a lot of really fun little nuggets in this show. Like obviously Optimus Prime shows up. The voice of Optimus Prime shows up as Kit's biggest rival car. And if you notice, you probably noticed this because you've gotten past season 2.
Yeah.
But during season 2, they actually got a new mechanic. And the reason they replaced the original one, because she comes back, she's in season 1, 3, and 4.
Yes.
She's not in 2 because the network was like, we need somebody quote unquote sexier or whatever. And nobody liked it. They had nothing against the actress who played that other lady, but they were like, well, we thought the first one was mistreated. Her and Michael Knight have really good chemistry too, on top of that. Yeah. And it was said that David Hasselhoff didn't like how she was treated. So they actually bring her back for seasons 3 and 4. She comes back, thankfully. And nothing against that other woman. She was fine, but you got to keep with what brought you to the table. Brought you to the dance.
To me, watching, like, I watched all of season 1, all of season 2, most of season 3, some of season 4. And with April, that's the character's name that replaced Bonnie from season 1. Bonnie, you felt a little something. Like, I understand it's the 80s.
Bonnie felt real to me. She felt like a real person.
Yes. April felt forced.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, like, they were just like, oh, April's here.
Yeah. And like I was saying, that chemistry between Bonnie and Michael Knight to me also felt real. Like it felt like a real chemistry there. That one didn't feel. You can tell when two actors like they're trying to force the chemistry with two of them. You can tell that. And I never felt that with Bonnie and Michael Knight. That all felt natural to me.
Because that was season, I think it was season 3. Yeah, when they finally brought her back.
Yeah.
Like it was like a Willis Reed type moment for me where I'm like,
yes.
yeah, Bonnie's back. Yes.
Yeah, comes back, the garden stands up.
Yes.
And he's remembered as a legend from then on out for saving the day.
They don't even mention April. They don't even tell you what happened to April. They were like, April, like a Dallas thing. It was all a dream. It was all.
Well, Knight Rider has a history of doing that, and we'll get in that later. But yeah, it's man. The one thing I really liked about Knight Rider was that he had it was obviously my favorite part.
Yeah,
but he had adversaries like Carr, like I mentioned, and Goliath, the big truck. Yeah, right? I definitely remember that. Goliath was probably my favorite of his. I loved the episode where he goes up against Goliath. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, because he goes up against Goliath twice.
Yes, Goliath. That's the one thing too. Like this is how part of pop culture of the show is Carr technically only shows up twice, I think.
Yeah,
and Goliath only shows up twice, but like they're ingrained in my head as like they were always there.
Yeah, Carr's voice the second time the body of the car changes, and then the voice is different.
Yeah.
But with Goliath, we also got to see Garth Knight, Wilton Knight's son, who is
now Andrew
Hasselhoff.
Andrew, you brought up to me this thing in the 80s and 90s, and you said at the top of the show, most of the themes are always the same, going out and helping people. But another trope of early television, is the evil doppelganger, and to make them evil, you just put on like facial hair, a la Spock in Star Trek, the original Star Trek, when there's an evil version of him. That's probably the most famous one to me. Is is the evil Spock just had like a evil facial hair, basically.
That's how you do it. That's how you tell them apart. Did you hear that story about that? I guess David Hasselhoff's parents or something didn't really watch the show, and they finally watched it, the one with the Goliath, and they were like, the guy that plays Garth Knight's a pretty good actor. It seems to be a better actor than you. And he even changed his voice. Like he'd be like, "Hey kid, what's up?" And then Garth Knight would come in like this and go, "Wearing mother."
I
the mother was involved. He weirds Wilton Knight's widow involved in all of this stuff, and you're thinking, and it's funny because I'll just get into it. In season 4, episode 1, all of a sudden Wilton's Knight's daughter comes into play, and she shuts down the foundation for the Foundation for Law and Government. So why didn't Garth just do that, or his mother do that?
There's a lot of little plot holes. Also, I think season 4 is when Kid also kind of like he has a bad crash, I think.
He gets destroyed.
And they upgrade him. And the guy who designed those upgrades was the same guy who made the Monsters vehicle and the Adam West Batmobile. But like he gets he can kind of transform the car a little bit, right?
It's super pursuit mode.
Yes.
Where he the spoiler lifts up, and they made sure they made a point of it, like in that episode, because that's what is that, season 4 episode 2, where he gets super pursuit, and they made sure they told us he didn't go 50% faster. He was going to go 40% faster, and all it was his bumper extended out, it lifted the trunk, like the back spoiler lifted up, and there was like these wings that came out, and they made it. I could get the feel that they're going for.
Yeah.
Because probably around this time, what is this, 86, 85? I do believe there's like Mask. I don't Mask where it was transformed.
I mean, also obviously Transformers in itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're trying to keep up. And if you notice I noticed throughout every season, as you watch it, you would always get something new, some new upgrade. Like season 1, the first couple episodes,
season 1, it was very obvious because the Bonnie would upgrade Kit, and then the upgrade she put on there would be used later on in the show.
Yeah. But also even the way that Kit talks, like the way that you would see him being voiced, he went from like a flashing red light to the 3 lines. And then like around season 3 or 4, that whole panel changes as well too, where it doesn't look like cheesy kind of like
Well, they borrowed that from Battlestar Galactica. That's where they got that idea.
There was a Halloween episode and the guy was wearing a Scion helmet. Because
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. That was the other bad one, is the Halloween episode that I ended up watching. Because they had a guy on there. And don't tell me you're not trying to like do something. The guy's name on the show was Norman Baines. Wonder what they could be talking about there.
Man, that sounds really familiar.
Yes. It was
one of my favorite things about the show is the guest actors who most of the time were not the greatest actors, and that kind of made it even more better for me. I enjoyed it more for their quote unquote acting. I want to throw out some more tidbits here, Andrew.
Yep.
What was the guy's name he credited? Larson is his last name. What was his first name?
Larson.
Yes. All right. So actually, this show obviously became a huge juggernaut, not just for ratings, but also for merchandising, right? It became a big merchandiser, which seems like a no-brainer to me. You got a really cool car. Guess who loves toy cars? Kids. So I don't understand why they made this deal, but it was one of the best deals for a creator in merchandising history before George Lucas. And that is that he got half of the merchandising.
Whoa.
And he was like, that's never really happened in TV before. So that was a pretty big deal. The other thing that I found really fascinating is, William Daniels and David Hasselhoff have if their chemistry didn't work, the show wouldn't work to me.
Yeah.
And it works really well. That's my favorite part of the whole show is when they work together and they go back and forth like that. It just works.
It's a Spock and Shatner type.
Yes.
I gotta say that it reminds me of a Spock and Shatner type thing. Like, here's the super logical computer just trying to learn the way humans interact and the way that they are. And then you got this guy who isn't like stupid, but he does have intelligence, but he's gonna go just on feeling instead of logic.
Yeah. And that's why they kind of work well with each other. They kind of help each other's weaknesses and strengths that way. But the other thing that was really fascinating to me is that those two actors actually didn't even meet each other in person until way after the show was already a hit. Because Daniels would record his lines without the cast because he doesn't actually appear on the show. He's just the voice of the car. And he and David Hasselhoff, I think he wrote a book or something once where he talked about this, where they were at some cast party and Daniels showed up to it, and that's the first time they met, and they got along really well. So that's the thing I like about this show too, is a lot of your actors who make it big off of a certain show don't like talking about that show a lot of the times. And I get it, because you can get typecast and stuff. Like, I totally get it. If, for example, Jaleel White never want to talk about Steve Urkel, I would understand, right? I would get it. But David Hasselhoff loves this show, and Daniels loves the show. The reason that Kit starts getting a little bit of because if you notice at the first couple episodes, he's way more robotic.
Yeah.
But he starts having a bit of a personality as the show goes on. That's because Bill Daniels pushed for it, and that was smart. That actually helps Kit stand out even more. If he's just robotic the whole time, I think the show would have fell flat, honestly.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's where, like I said, with Don Johnson coming in, I don't think Don Johnson's going to bring that same flair that David Hasselhoff did to that,
right,
to the whole thing of him riding the Lone Ranger, riding into town, helping people out, riding out. And that's one of the best parts of everything. It's just that whole dynamic between them, trying to figure things out, going through everything else, knowing, what was it, like the first couple episodes, he falls asleep at the wheel and Kit's got to wake him up. It made it look like he wasn't sleeping, but that was the great dynamic between those two. And also, I don't know how you forgot about Devin.
I didn't. Yeah. Devin's like the head of Night Industries after the founder passes away.
I really like Devin in a lot of ways, because he's a little bit more of a logical type guy. And and I think that's the great chemistry between him and Michael. Like, there's an episode where I think it was when he got amnesia or something. I don't know if you saw this one.
Yeah.
And they give him like eggs and all this stuff, and he's like, it's all your favorite greasy foods, because Devin is very sophisticated. And Devin would never think about eating any of that stuff at all. And that's what the Halloween party dresses up as, like Louis the 14th or something. somebody like gets it wrong and he corrects them and gives them like a whole history lesson on it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Did you see? I think this is what kind of got to him was in season 4. Also, they added another person.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Reginald Cornelius III or RC3.
Yeah, what a name. Yeah.
And I saw that, and then I guess he would go along on missions with Michael, but that's not. I think that took away from it. I
It
never
most certainly
saw any
did.
of those episodes, but why would you do that, Michael?
It's not a good idea. A lot of shows would do this too, right? They would think, oh, we need to spice this up for whatever reason, and let's throw in another guy. But this show, all 4 seasons, was doing really well in ratings. The only reason they didn't even get a season 5 was it was becoming too costly to make.
Oh well,
And I was going to throw this out here too, and you're talking about the merchandising of the show.
yeah.
I was watching, I think it's Toy Galaxy on YouTube. He does a lot of really cool history of stuff, and he did a history of Knight Rider, and I watched that before we recorded today. And he also puts in fun old commercials related to it. And there was this thing looks sweet. I wish I'd known about it as a kid, but it was a power wheel or a big wheel. I forgot what those are called. It has the big wheel in the front, the 2 small ones in the back. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's
and it was a Knight Rider kit version. But what made this one stand out was there was this lever on the side that as you're pedaling, you could hit this lever and it would spin you out like you're the really cool car. It was freaking cool.
I actually, before we started recording, normally I don't pick like the whole sponsor commercial until after. I went on before, and that was the sponsor. So
good.
When at this point, you guys are probably like, didn't we just hear this? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because it's awesome.
It rules.
And if I didn't have my Transformer big wheel, I definitely would have won it. I actually had the Knight Rider pedal car.
Oh, that's cool.
And you put a battery in there. And it didn't work. As a kid, I always thought that's where he would talk, but then I find out that's just his surveillance mode.
Yeah. Same here. But I love this show. It would do really well, and then that's why it keeps kind of coming back, right?
Yeah.
Not just in merchandising, but they've tried to bring the show back a couple of times. I definitely remember the made-for-TV movie in the 90s.
I remember that.
Which brought back everybody pretty much. I mean, Hasselhoff's back, Kit's in a new kind of car. But then they tried to redo it again in the early 2000s, I think. I didn't care for that one too much. It was all new people. They even had it. Did you remember that show Team Knight Rider?
No, I didn't. I watched the same thing that you watched on.
Yeah, I didn't either. But that just sounds like a terrible idea because you're just taking the original premise and just times it by 5, basically. Yeah, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be, that's what it says.
It's Lone Ranger and Tonto is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, Michael, it says at the end of like going all the way through like the first season, Michael Knight, a lone crusader in a dangerous world, the world of the Knight Rider, not Knight Rider. Yes. It reminds me of Airheads. How can you Lone Rangers? No, it's Lone Ranger. This is
singular.
Yeah,
exactly. And
the narration.
And they've been trying to make a movie, actually. They've had a couple of scripts written. They've had some big names attached to it. The one that sounded the best to me was the one with bringing back Hasselhoff as kind of an advisor type thing. I would like that just because I think you got to have some kind of connection. But that's if you're going to bring it back.
I think you could probably James Earl Jones, if you know what I mean.
He's retired though.
No, like William Daniels' voice, kind of like how they do Vader now, where they kind of like piece together his voice.
Oh yeah.
You could do that, but you would need that because that was the heart and soul of Knight Rider. Was, as we keep on saying, was that Kit Michael Knight dynamic. It's not.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Who would if in your ideal world, who would they cast as the new Michael Knight, and who would they cast as the new voice of Kit?
I can't even tell you any new actors. You would need somebody cool, tall.
You got somebody who just oozes cool without trying to be cool. That's why David Hasselhoff was cool, but was that he never acted like he was trying to be. He just seemed like he was.
Because he was. And you just get out of the way he just gets out of the car.
Yeah.
I can't even. You would have to go. No, can't use him. You know who I could think of that's just kind of cool the way he talks is I can't say his name properly, but they were thinking about him being James Bond.
Is it Idris Elba?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes. That is a cool dude. I know he's a little bit, but he's still a cool dude. I know he's like older and you might want somebody younger, but he's got that essence about him. Yes.
Yeah. You need somebody like that who has that same air about them. I agree completely.
Or you need that cowboy image. Like, I can't tell you any new actors. That's how bad I am. No, nowadays it'd probably be like The Rock or somebody popping out of there, and they like get somebody like horrible to do the voice of the car.
Yeah, see, that's the thing too. Who would you get? Because I think the voice of the car is as important, if not more important, than who you get as the lead actor. Because even though Daniels wasn't credited, he said like he couldn't walk down the street because people just recognized his voice. That's how iconic that voice became.
That's crazy that I didn't realize it until I heard Mr. Feeney talk, and then I watched Knight Rider, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's Mr. Feeney."
Yeah,
I'm like that. No, you can't do that. Just giving us words of wisdom for like over 2 decades.
Just because I mean, I was too young. I was obviously too young for Saint Elsewhere. Is that what it's called? That show he was in before Knight Rider,
or was it? I was either like Saint Elsewhere or
Elmo's Fire or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It was basically he's playing a doctor, I think. But I didn't know that was the same guy until obviously I heard him talk on Boy Meets World, and he's an incredible actor. So yeah, man.
Maybe
you just need a voice that feels iconic.
That's the guy I want. I want Michael B. Jordan. I would want Michael B.
That would work.
Yes. I would want Michael B. Jordan. Because I was afraid I was going to get a computer virus or somebody was going to walk.
Because most of the,
like, what are you going to get? Because I just put in hot young actors. I didn't know how to say it.
I can't wait to see what your internet keeps trying to suggest you look at from now on. Now that it knows that you looked up hot young actors,
I could do Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then Israel as the voice of Kit, maybe
because he does have an iconic voice.
He does have an iconic voice.
Who's the guy who does? Is it? I always get his name. Is it Keith David or David Keith? I get it confused. He's got a very iconic voice to me too.
Okay, Keith David would be awesome.
Yeah. Who's the other actor I think? See, most of the actors I think of are just probably too old.
Yeah, that's
because the other one was like I think of Robert Downey Jr. just seems cool, but he's just too old.
You got to have that contrast. You got to have that like Batman Beyond contrast.
Yes,
that's why I was like,
yes,
should probably never have done that. But hot young, I would. Out of all these guys, I'm like treating this like it's like a casting call. I'm looking through these days, and out of all of them, I gotta go Michael B. Jordan because he's got that cool swagger to him, and that's what you need with Michael Knight. Now, can he pull off the skinny jeans and cowboy boots? And I don't know if you noticed in some episodes, Michael's wearing kind of a see-through shirt.
Oh yeah, man, you gotta get that in, man. And no top buttons on a shirt were ever buttoned.
No, why would they need be? But like and then did you notice the music in the show? Like, how much did you talk about pricing? How much money did they spend on licensing music?
Yeah, that's the one thing I had forgotten about before rewatching that was some of the songs. So yeah, I'm looking up. I said top young actors is what I looked up.
They got that Tanner Buchanan from Cobra Kai, but he's not cool enough. He's the one that plays Johnny's son.
Yeah.
He doesn't have it. Like, I'm looking at all these dudes and I'm like, no, you don't look like they have the spouse brothers on here. You remind me too much of Big Daddy.
Yeah. The only man. See, most of these young actors that I actually enjoy their work, I don't feel would work for Michael Knight though. Like Tom Holland, I think is really good, but I don't think he could be a Michael Knight. The kid, obviously the kids / young adults now from Stranger Things, most of them are really all of them are really good actors, but I don't think you gotta have that just that ooze that coolness and without trying to ooze that coolness.
I want a petition. I want Michael B. Jordan as my.
He's the best one I've heard so far
as my replacement. He's. I feel like he's not too old, but not too young.
Yeah.
And I really liked him in The Wire. If you ever watched The Wire.
Yeah, yes. I mean, he's just a good actor anyway. I mean, he's good in the
Creeds.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. I was trying to think of the Rocky thing.
Yeah, he's like 35. That's about
perfect. That's not bad.
What age, David Hasselhoff started playing it.
Yeah. That's totally fine. Yeah.
Maybe man. Okay, now
who would you get? Who would you get as Devin?
Oh, you got it. If you can get a Michael Caine. That's
that's ideal. Yeah.
You can get him. Just think about Michael Caine playing that Devin role.
Yeah.
Oh, who would you get as Bonnie though?
That's the other idea I have for the voice of Kit too was Cumberbatch. He's got a very iconic voice. I think could work.
Yes. Oh man, Bonnie. I don't even know.
Yeah, who would you get for her? I'm thinking.
I was thinking Zendaya.
Yeah, she would work.
Because what worked with Bonnie was, I don't want to sound horrible and like sexist or anything, but what worked with Bonnie over, like we mentioned, over that April was Bonnie was good looking, but she was believable in her role as like this computer person. Where I'm sounding horrible.
I know what you're saying.
As we get canceled after this, where April just didn't have that. It's like when you're listening to a rap song. April didn't have the flow with them or that image. When I saw April, I saw more Daisy Duke in a way, but in a bad way.
I was about to say Daisy Duke was actually pretty great.
Yeah, Daisy Duke was good. But it was more, it just seemed more like eye candy than something you're like, that girl's smart.
Yeah, because Bonnie came off like she was a mechanic first. And like she was like, I would trust her fixing my vehicle, It had nothing to do with how she looked. She just happened to also be really easy on the eyes, as they say here in the South.
Yeah, I don't even know who half of these people are. As I look through this stuff.
I think Zendaya is a great choice.
Maybe Millie Bobby Brown.
That was the other one I was going to say. I was also going to throw in there, but how old is she now? She's not super old. What's her name? The Hunger Games lady. What's her name?
Oh, Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
I could get with
Speaking of which, they did a movie together. That's the only reason I'm linking this. Chris Pratt might make a pretty good Michael Knight.
That would be tough.
Yeah.
That's a good question. But that would be tough.
I mean, he's doing everything else right now.
Because he does, as long as he plays not too goofy.
Yeah. But to me, even when he's goofy, he still seems cool to me. So, but I know what you're saying. Like, he needs to play more like he does on Jurassic World, sort of.
Yes.
Where he's less goofy. Yeah.
That cool. Okay. So those, man, I don't know who to choose.
Yeah. Who would you choose if you're listening to this? Give us some options here.
You know what? I think I might post that up there on the good old Facey book.
Yeah, look up the Nostalgia Funhouse on the Facebook. We got a pretty fun community growing there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's man, this is a fun question.
Let's also
do this. Let's also do this. Who would you be in Knight Rider?
I would want to be Michael Knight. Who wouldn't want to be? As a kid, Michael Knight. Probably now, I'd probably want to be Devin, just so I could like chill back and and relax.
See, I want to be Bill Daniels, where I just have to record voices and just sit back and relax and enjoy all the proceeds.
There you go. I was going back to the guest stars. I was actually amazed because there was Gina Davis.
Yeah.
I saw Bobby Brown made an appearance. Jim Brown.
Wow.
Hall of Famer. They break him out of jail. Who else? What's his? I can't pronounce his last name, but the voice of Skeletor is in like season.
Hey man! Yeah,
season 1, episode 3. I got so excited when I think his name is Alan Offenheimer.
Yeah,
I was like, that's Skeletor, and then I was it just didn't get to see Skeletor, but it did have a lot of guest stars. But the premises of every episode. This is the other thing. Now that I'm thinking about it too. Did you like it before every single episode they showed you like clips, like the highlights of the show?
No, I hated that.
Okay, that is one thing I would change.
There's a big spoiler alerts there. Yeah, like just let me enjoy the episode. I want to see it's happening. We already have all you need is the concept of what the show is.
Yep,
and you're hooked, and you're going to watch it. You don't need them to tell you and actually show you clips of all the best parts of the stuff Kit's going to do. Yeah. I don't want to see that before I see it.
And how many times can you turbo boost Kit?
A bunch. More than one. My favorite thing about Kit, too, that they don't talk about for whatever reason is how apparently strong he is, because he can push and pull some vehicles that are outweigh him by tons.
That's funny that they got to that point, because like the one that I was talking about with the voices, the guy that does the voice of Skeletor, and that one he tows a car and it messes up his circuitry.
Yeah.
But like later on, I understand upgrades. He was like, I'm just gonna push this Mack truck out of the way. I'm gonna do this.
He pushes a Mack truck. There's one episode where I'm pretty sure he pushes like a giant construction crane type vehicle. Or he holds it and keeps it from moving. That's the one with the water line that he's, for those farms, or what are those things? Good God, I'm blanking on my stuff.
Oh, I know what it is.
You know what I'm talking about? That lady runs a farm like area, and all those people need that water, and that one guy's blocking the water or trying to steal the water, that type of thing. But in that one, Kit goes up against a giant. That's my favorite part of this show, is Kit going up against all these other stuff.
I think that is the best part, and I just love how when you look inside a Kit, all this stuff that we never thought would exist in a car, pretty much exists today. Now you can play a video game in a car.
Yeah.
You might not want to play your Atari 2600 like they did, but
that's also my favorite thing that really shows the age of this show, is when Kit was doing his quote unquote high tech stuff. It does look like an Atari 2600.
Yes, my son called it out on that a lot. He was like, "Why does it look like that?" I'm like, "It's 1982. That's high tech as crazy."
Yeah,
as one show can get. He's like, "That looks horrible. That doesn't even look like a Nintendo." I was like,
"Yeah." What's wild is at the time that was groundbreaking.
That very groundbreaking. I mean, now we're looking at. I took an Uber one time and it was a Tesla, and you can just see the cars on the screen. Like you don't even have to look out. And I'm thinking, this is like Knight Rider right here.
Yeah, I remember when as we've gotten older, cars have just gotten more and more, like we've been talking about, just more and more wild with how they used to be. And I still remember being excited when I was a kid and our family got was it a Taurus? I think it was a Ford Taurus. But the reason I was excited was because that the radio station actually told you the name of the song.
Oh,
it was playing, and that was a big deal to me.
We just got a new car, and before that, I went to a garage sale and I bought some CDs.
Yeah,
my kids were like, "Oh, our old car had a CD player in it," and they were like, "I'm like, so this is what we did, you pop in the CD." And then all of a sudden, we got the new car, and I was kind of upset. I was like, "Where's the CD player?" And they're like, "No, you can hook your phone up to the car." Yeah, no, where's the CD? I want the CD player. No, it's all Bluetooth. It's going to show you what song it's playing. You can make phone. No, I want this. There's a DVD. No, I want the CD player.
I used to have a 2007 Mustang, and it was my favorite car I ever had. And I remember the fact that and this is in 2010, I think it was. And I remember just like gloating about that car, the fact that it had like a 6-disc CD changer in it. And I was gloating to, this is when I was like a youth leader at my church. And I was gloating to all the youth, and they could care less.
That's amazing.
That's in 2010, but it was blowing my freaking mind. Like I was like, I could put 6 CDs in this thing.
And then all they gotta do is just change it.
Yes.
Where are we living in? I'm amazed by that. I've never had that. I remember my friend had it like in the trunk.
Yeah. Yes, I had a friend who had that too. Yeah.
And all of a sudden he'd be like, wait a minute. And he'd go, and he couldn't find it. And he goes, wait. And then we just pull up into a park lot. I'm like, is he gonna kill me? Because he didn't tell me what was going on. And he just opened up the trunk and he goes, it's in this one. Did it come in like the pack? Like it was like the big like pack type deal?
No, this was actually built into the car.
Oh,
yeah,
real fancy.
Yeah, it came out that way. Yeah, this was when I had a really good job and I could afford such things.
Pinkies up for Johnny there.
Yeah, that's by far the most fancy thing I ever had. Nothing's come close to that since or after.
That's what I love watching about these old TV shows, is just the technology.
Yeah,
and how it could translates to today. For this one, I was thinking, could Michael Knight really be the shadowy figure like he is in this one with the internet today? Like, how does he go from town to town?
Well, let's be fair. He wasn't exactly hiding in the original Knight Rider. He was out going everywhere. He was always saying that his name was Michael Knight constantly.
Yeah, but he went to these small towns.
Yes.
So what are they really getting out? Like, what are you going to do? Put it in the paper?
But he would also get famous. I mean, there's that one where he did that stunt show. Remember that? And he quote unquote saved a stunt show because he was the biggest. He would do crazy stunts with Kit. So he wasn't exactly keeping a low profile. But I know what you're saying. It's a lot harder in today's age to come off like that. Because back then, I mean, this is the same thing with early pro wrestling for us too, right? Where it was in the territories. That's why you could have like Andre the Giant move from town to town because he was an attraction coming and you didn't really know much about him until he showed up in your town. And that's kind of the same thing you have here with Kit and Michael Knight. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I think they would definitely have to change some stuff for sure. Oh man, there's a lot of different things you could do. But like you said, a lot of stuff Kit was doing in the 80s, like most stuff just does now.
Yeah.
Like all the, like when he would go through his quote unquote records to find out information on stuff, that's literally just the internet now.
Or Google, how he had a scanner.
Yeah. I mean, we could type in hot young. I mean, we can easily look up hot young actors right now, right? Yeah. We don't need to ask Kit to do it for us.
I don't know. I channeled my inner movie producer, I guess, and it was like hot young actors. It was G-rated, the stuff that came up.
You must have your safe search on.
I must.
Smart with kids around, I get it. But yeah, I absolutely love the show. I still love it now. They would go on. We kind of mentioned some other stuff they tried to do afterwards. I would love for it to continue just because I love the premise of it. But me and you grew up on this original one, and it would take I'd be a very harsh critic, I think, to whatever they try to do, just like I am with Ninja Turtle stuff.
Yes. It would have to be like the 2012 Ninja Turtles, where it gives you something new, but gives us something that we can relate to nostalgia-wise. Like,
yeah, it kind of bridges the gap there.
Having David Hasselhoff come back as Michael Knight. Don't make a new Michael Knight. Just have him come back as Michael Knight. He's either taken over the foundation or he's trying to rebuild the foundation of something.
Yeah, we want a legacy thing. We don't want a what's that called where they try to redo everything. It's called something. I'm forgetting what it's called. A reboot. We don't want a reboot. I don't want a reboot. I want the history of the show to be acknowledged if you're going to do a new thing. But forget about the made-for-TV stuff. The made-for-TV movies, you don't need to acknowledge it.
And I need Patricia McPherson back as Bonnie.
Yes. Yeah.
As long as she is still alive, she must be Bonnie. And then you could bring in like a young protege for her too as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm down for that.
That's exactly how you would have to be. Another good example is Cobra Kai. Like have Devin have a picture of Devin. Michael talks to the picture, perfect. What would we do, Devin? Why are we not employed in Hollywood? Right?
That's a perfect example of how you continue the story of Knight Rider is using Cobra Kai as your idea there, where Devin is obviously the actor's gone, but he's still part of the show. Like that's how Cobra Kai does it with Mr. Miyagi, even though obviously Pat Morita is long gone, sadly, but his presence still feels like a part of the show.
Yeah, you got to have the two pictures, and I think the best way to do it is he's rebuilding the flag organization foundation of law and government, and he's rebuilding it, and I don't know, he just doesn't like how something's going, so he recruits somebody, and that's how it goes. And you could probably get a new voice, or I would have to say I don't think you could bring back Kit's voice.
It has to be somebody different. Bill Daniels is just, I mean, he's in his upper 80s now, I think. So he's just too old to do it, sadly. Yeah. But I think the two shows you've brought up are great great shows to be influenced by for this would be Cobra Kai and Batman Beyond.
Just don't Star Wars sequel series this, please.
Yeah, we don't need it. We don't need that.
We've
got enough of that.
I feel like those of just WWE style, like, hey, those guys are old. Nobody cares about Luke and Han and Leia. check out these guys. No, they're kind of stupid. Other than Poe, it's not too bad, but you guys kind of screwed him up too.
Well, that's the thing with this is a whole nother side tangent.
Yeah.
Like when the first started, I did like the new characters. Like Finn was probably my favorite, but then they just don't do anything with them. Unless your name's Kylo Ren, you don't really get a full arc in those movies.
I get Kylo Ren because me and Matt did that whole, Hayden Christensen nailed Anakin Skywalker and how it is, but yeah. I think they try to make Kylo Ren a little bit too much like Anakin.
Yeah,
in that way, when Anakin had both of his parents together, or not Anakin, but Kylo Ben Solo had both of his parents, but that's neither here nor there. But
it's so wild how one series of movies, these latest Star Wars, can have one death that they do so right for an iconic character being Han Solo. Like that was the perfect ending for him. And then they just totally screw up Luke Skywalker's. It's so wild how you can do that. But they did it.
Because they're horrible. And this show Knight Rider never got a proper ending. Like
no, it didn't.
Just one last ride off into the sunset or anything like that.
But that's a topic for another show, right? Like shows that had open-ended endings that we never really got a conclusion to. That happened a lot throughout TV history.
Now, if this show would have been canceled after the fourth season, how many seasons do you think it could have lasted? Do you think it could have lasted up until Baywatch or beyond Baywatch?
How many do I think, or how many do I think it should have lasted? It's two different questions to me.
It's kind of the same in a way.
I think it could have made it to Baywatch. I think it could have lasted the whole 80s.
Okay.
But I think we would have been in the same boat as any of those shows where we would have said like the first, I went through up 5 seasons just as a number, were the best. And after that, they probably should have ended it, but they didn't. I mean, there's a lot of shows that suffer from that. I mean, I talked about Bonanza,
Yeah.
That's the second longest running show for a longest time. I think it was like 16 seasons or something like that. And the only reason it ended up ending was because the guy who played Hoss passed away suddenly. They weren't expecting it.
Oh, so they were like, just shut it down.
Yeah, they had one season after he man, it's just, my knowledge of stuff is like yours where nobody cares but me and you. But Hoss was one of the most popular characters on that show, and his show was still doing really good. The actor went in for gallbladder surgery, which even at that time was routine. So nobody was thinking he was going to pass away, but he actually passed away during the surgery from complications of it. It's very rare, but it apparently does happen, and he just happened to be one of those. So they had one more season after that, and it was basically a Michael Landon type season. He was more in charge of the show and stuff back then. But even he had lost because him and that guy were actually really good friends.
So he was.
They were all kind of out of it by then. I mean, it's kind of hard to come back especially when you're close to somebody on top of that, and has a major imprint on what you're doing.
Well, 16 years with somebody working with him, that's going to be.
Yeah.
Do you have other than Kit or Goliath and Carr, do you have like a favorite episode that stood out to you?
See, when I was a kid, those were by far my favorites, and I still love them as an adult. But the ones that stand out to me now is just for how, and I mean this in a very good way, cheesy it is.
Yeah,
but I mean it in the best way possible.
It's very like 60s Batman kind of in a way.
Yes. It's very endearing to me, the cheesiness of it. So like from the ones I've been watching, the one that really stood out to me was I think I talked to you about this one, is where Michael, Knight, and Kit go in and kind of infiltrate because they're trying to find out who an assassin is. And the big twist was all of them are assassins. You remember that one? I think it's in the first season.
Yeah.
But that one stood out to me. I really love that one.
My favorite was the second to last episode of season 2. And it was called Let It Be Me. And it's another one of those ones where, because there is a love interest from Michael Knight that snuck up twice. And her name is Stevie, that was like his big thing.
Yeah.
She's all of a sudden in this big band called Class Action, and the lead singer dies. So, if you got a big up and coming band, why not just hire some random guy that says he's been in Australia for a couple of years when he hasn't? So they bring in Michael Knight to do it. And this goes to show you how much of an entertainer David Hasselhoff.
Oh yeah,
as he's.
isn't it in Germany where he's only known for his singing, basically?
Yeah, like when the Berlin Wall came down, they had him like flew him there or something. He was on the Berlin Wall singing.
Oh man, that's so great.
But this is the best. Plus, two, it's got the most 80s like cheesy MTV rock star outfits.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
so great.
So that's Knight Rider for you.
Yeah.
Again, to find it streaming is kind of difficult unless you said it's on Roku.
It's on Roku.
So that's probably the best way I would say right now, because it's not on Peacock for whatever stupid reason they put it on their website, the NBC website instead. Which I don't make. It should be on both. Like, why is it not on Peacock? It's just dumb.
I thought it was going to be on Peacock when it went off of Netflix. I was like, oh, it's going to be right on Peacock. But
yeah, because it just went off of Netflix recently as of this recording, like just a month ago, I think.
Yeah,
because that's where I was watching it, and then I can't watch it no more that way. Ruined it for me.
That was the other thing about it too, is it was one of those 80s shows where it had the segue into commercials.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it with my son, and obviously this is a generation where commercials don't happen as much, especially when you're watching something on Netflix. And he was, why is it doing that? So I had to tell him that's when you knew that a commercial was coming up. They're segueing.
And then after the commercial, there's sometimes a soft recap of what just happened.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that too. Yeah.
But like Johnny said, that's Knight Rider in a nutshell. Still love it. Definitely a great series to go check out.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for your support for us this year. It really means a lot to us. This is kind of a new thing for me and you. I mean, we've been doing it a couple months now, but I mean, I'm speaking for myself here, but I'm really enjoying doing this. This is a lot of fun. I'm very grateful for Andrew for letting me hang on to his coattails here. Well, I kind of forced it, but I'm glad that he allowed it. So thank you, all you listeners and supporters out there. Please go to our Facebook page. It's the Nostalgia Funhouse. Check out our Patreon, Nostalgia Funhouse, so we can finally afford the Ghost of Mr. Chicken. Maybe that'll be our 100th episode.
And go to the YouTube channel as well, too. Fun Let's Plays, videos, all types of stuff over there as well.
Yeah, go check it out. Thank you, everybody. We very much appreciate all of you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Bottom.
One man can make a difference, Michael Knight, a lone crusader in a dangerous world, the world of the Knight Rider.